Commander Hak Sung stretched his 4 powerful arms and walked across the gleaming metal floor of his command bridge. The Star Dominion was the pride of the Veltharian fleet, a massive warship that could destroy entire cities with a single blast. Through the massive viewing windows, stars twinkled like tiny diamonds against the black canvas of space. Another day, another conquest? Hak Sung muttered to himself, his razor-sharp mandibles clicking together in amusement. His pale blue skin gleamed under the bridge lights as he approached the central command station, where dozens of holographic displays showed detailed information about their next target, the planet. Earth rotated slowly in the main display, a beautiful blue and green marble suspended in the darkness. It looked so peaceful, so innocent. Hak Sung had seen hundreds of worlds like this before, and they all ended the same way. Complete surrender within hours of his fleet's arrival. Commander called out Vendel from his tactical station. The younger Veltharian's voice carried excitement. This was only his 3rd conquest mission. I've finished analyzing the human military capabilities. This is going to be easier than we thought. Hak Sung's 6 eyes focused on his tactical officer. Show me what these humans are capable of. The main display shifted to show various scenes from Earth's surface. Primitive aircraft that moved slower, then a Veltharian transport shuttle, ground vehicles that crawled along like insects, soldiers, carrying crude projectile weapons that would barely scratch Veltharian armor. Their most advanced weapons are fusion bombs, Vendel continued, pulling up more data. Impressive for a primitive species, but nothing compared to our plasma cannons. They have no energy shields, no faster-than-light communication, and definitely no interstellar military capability. Hak Sung walked closer to examine the human settlements. Their cities looked fragile. It's built from concrete and metal instead of the reinforced quantum materials used throughout the Veltharian Empire. Their largest military bases could probably be destroyed by a single fighter craft. How many worlds? Is this for you, Commander? Asked Dalrin, the ship's intelligence officer, as he approached with a datapad in his clawed hands. 47 successful conquests, Hak Sung replied proudly, his chest swelling with pride. 47 different species that thought they could resist the might of the Veltharian Empire? They all learned the same lesson in the end. The bridge crew murmured appreciatively. Hak Sung's reputation was legendary throughout the fleet. He had conquered the crystal cities of Mordana Prime without losing a single ship. He had brought the warrior clans of Zephyria to their knees in less than 6 hours. The floating kingdoms of Aquarius had surrendered after seeing just one demonstration of his fleet's power. The humans will be no different, Hak Sung continued, studying the peaceful blue world. Look at them, they're still fighting wars against each other using chemical explosives and metal projectiles. They haven't even united their own planet. Under a single government? Pathetic. Vendel pulled up more intelligence reports. According to our scouts, they have something called the United Nations. But it's mostly ceremonial. Their world is divided into nearly 200 separate territories, each with its own military. They spend more time fighting each other than developing their technology. This made Hak Sung laugh, a sound like grinding metal that echoed across the bridge. Perfect. Divided enemies are the easiest to conquer. We won't even need to use our full fleet strength. The massive Veltharian armada had been traveling through space for 3 months to reach this remote solar system. 300 warships, each capable of sterilizing a planet's surface. Thousands of fighters and assault craft. Nearly 1 million soldiers ready for planetary occupation. It was enough firepower to conquer 10 worlds like Earth. Commander, all ships are reporting ready. Status, announced the communications officer. We have complete tactical superiority. The humans' primitive radar systems can't even detect us at this range. Soon nodded and activated the fleet-wide communication system. His image appeared on screens throughout the armada as he addressed his forces. Warriors of the Veltharian Empire, he began, his voice carrying the authority of countless victories. Today we add another world to our glorious dominion. The species below us calls themselves humans, and they are as primitive as they are weak. This will be a routine subjugation, minimal resistance expected. Cheers erupted from bridge crews across the fleet. Young officers who had never seen combat looked excited. Veteran soldiers checked their weapons with practiced efficiency. Begin. Standard intimidation protocols. Haksong commanded. Decloak the fleet at maximum visual range. Let these humans see what real power looks like. The 300 Veltharian warships suddenly materialized in Earth's sky like dark storm clouds. Their hulls gleamed with menacing purple light as their weapon systems powered up. The formation was perfect, an overwhelming display of military might that had brought countless civilizations to their knees. Now send the surrender demand, Haksung ordered. Use the standard template. Unconditional surrender within 1 hour, or face complete annihilation. The message was broadcast across every human communication frequency on Earth. Television stations, radio networks, internet systems, military channels, everything received the same ultimatum in dozens of human languages. Haksung settled back in his command chair, confident this would end quickly. In his experience, primitive species always responded the same way. First came panic and chaos. Then desperate attempts at negotiation. Finally, tearful surrender as their leaders begged for mercy. Minutes passed, then more minutes. The bridge grew quiet as they waited for the inevitable response. Finally, the communication system crackled to life. A simple message came through in clear, unaccented Standard Galactic, just one word that would change everything. No. The bridge of the Star Dominion fell silent after that single word echoed through the communication systems. Haksung's mandibles twitched in confusion. 47 conquests. No species had ever simply said no to his surrender demands. Sir? They're transmitting again, Vendel called out, his voice uncertain. It's not a surrender message. There. Broadcasting. Something else entirely. Put it on the main screen, Haksung ordered, expecting to see terrified human leaders trying to negotiate for more time instead. The display filled with images that made every Veltharian on the bridge take a step backward. The footage showed humans locked in brutal combat, but these weren't scenes of their current military forces. These were historical records spanning thousands of years, ancient warriors wielding primitive swords, their faces painted with war colors as they charged into battle with terrifying war cries. Medieval soldiers in metal armor, storming castle walls, despite arrows raining down on them. Modern troops advancing through explosive battlefields, their faces grim with determination. What are they showing us? Whispered Dalrin, his usual confidence. Shaken, the images shifted to aerial views of human cities reduced to smoking ruins. Massive explosions that created mushroom clouds reaching into the sky. Ships burning and sinking in dark oceans. Aircraft engaged in deadly dogfights. High above the clouds, HAK-Soon watched in growing unease as the footage revealed the true scope of human warfare. These beings didn't just fight to win territories or resources, they fought with a savagery that made veteran Veltharian soldiers look tame by comparison. A new image appeared on screen, a human, male in a military uniform standing in what looked like a command center. The name tag on his chest read Captain Numwu. Behind him, other humans worked frantically at computer stations, their faces focused and determined. "Greetings, Veltharian Empire, Captain Numwu," said in perfect Standard Galactic, his voice calm and steady. "I am Captain Numwu of the Earth Defense Coalition. You wanted to know what humans are capable of? Allow me to show you." The display split into multiple screens, each showing different aspects of human military history. Soldiers charging machine, gun positions, despite overwhelming odds, pilots flying damaged aircraft directly into enemy ships in suicide attacks, civilians fighting with improvised weapons against professional armies. "For 10,000 years we have been at war," Numwu continued. "Not with alien invaders, but with ourselves. Every conflict, every battle, every tactical innovation has been preparation for the day when something like your fleet would arrive." Haksung felt his confidence wavering. The intelligence reports had mentioned human conflicts, but they had dismissed them as primitive tribal disputes. This footage showed something far more disturbing, a species that had turned warfare into an art form. Commander Vendel's voice cracked with tension. "You need to see this tactical analysis." A new display showed human military statistics that made Haksung's blood freeze. In their most recent global conflict, Humans had produced over 300,000 aircraft, 100,000 tanks, and millions of soldiers. They had developed weapons capable of destroying entire cities and had used them without hesitation. "They fight like demons," Dalren whispered, staring at footage of human soldiers advancing through artillery bombardments. "Look how they keep going, even when their formations are shattered." On screen, Captain Nomwu gestured to the historical footage. "Every war taught us something new. The ancient Greeks showed us the power of coordinated tactics. Roman legions demonstrated the importance of discipline and logistics. Our world. Wars pushed our technology and strategic thinking to new levels. The images shifted to show more recent human conflicts. Special forces units conducting night raids with precision that impressed even Veltharian military analysts. Guerrilla fighters using improvised explosives to destroy advanced military equipment. Pilots engaging in aerial combat maneuvers that defied basic physics. But here's what makes us truly dangerous," Nomwu said, his expression growing serious. "We don't just fight to win. We fight like every battle is our last. Every human warrior knows that defeat means the extinction of everything they hold dear." Suddenly, warning alarms began blaring throughout the Veltharian fleet. Red lights flashed on every bridge as tactical officers scrambled to their stations. Commander Vendel shouted over the noise. "Unknown contacts approaching from multiple vectors." "How is this possible?" Haksung rushed to the tactical display, his forearms working frantically to process the information. Dozens of contacts were appearing on sensors, emerging from what had seemed like empty space around the outer edges of his fleet formation. "These ships," he whispered in disbelief, "they're not using any technology we recognize." The human vessels looked nothing like proper warships. They appeared to be hastily converted civilian craft cargo haulers fitted with weapon systems, passenger liners equipped with armor plating. Even what looked like mining equipment repurposed for combat. But, despite their crude appearance, these ships moved with deadly precision. They attacked in coordinated groups, targeting specific weak points in Veltharian ship formations. Their tactics were unlike anything in standard military doctrine. "How did they get into position without us detecting them?" Dalren demanded, his voice rising with panic. On the main screen, Captain Nomwu's cold smile provided the answer. "We don't need faster-than-light technology when we're fighting in our own backyard. We've been hiding in our asteroid belt for months, waiting for someone exactly like you." The tactical display showed the truth. Human ships had been camouflaged among the rocky debris of their solar system's asteroid belt, using the natural formations to mask their heat signatures and energy readings. They had turned their entire star system into a massive ambush. "Possible," Haksung breathed. "Our sensors are the most advanced in the galaxy." "Your sensors look for energy signatures and metal alloys," Nomwu explained, as if reading his thoughts. "But we built these ships using materials that wouldn't register on your equipment. Ceramic composites, carbon fiber, even modified asteroid rock." The first wave of human attacks struck the outer Veltharian ships with devastating effect. Instead of engaging in traditional long-range combat, the human vessels closed to point-blank range. Using ramming attacks and short-range weapons that bypassed energy shields through sheer kinetic force, "Sir, the Dark Talon is reporting heavy damage." A communications officer called out. "They're requesting immediate support." Haksung watched in horror as a converted human cargo ship, its hull glowing from weapon impacts, deliberately crashed into a Veltharian cruiser. The explosion lit up space like a miniature star. Taking both vessels with it, the human ships moved through space like deadly shadows, their hulls barely visible against the starfield. Haksung gripped his command chair as the first wave of attacks hammered into his fleet's outer formations. These weren't the clean, precise energy exchanges he was used to in civilized warfare. This was something far more brutal and terrifying. "Direct hit on human vessel Earth's Fury," Vendel reported, his voice filled with relief. "Their ship is venting atmosphere and losing power. They're finished." But instead of drifting away or exploding, the damaged human ship suddenly accelerated straight toward the Veltharian destroyer Night's Edge. Its engines glowed white-hot as the pilot pushed them beyond their safety limits. What are they doing? Dalrin gasped. They're going to kill themselves? The human ship struck the Valtharian vessel with tremendous force. The impact sent shockwaves through both hulls before a massive explosion lit up the darkness of space. When the flames cleared, both ships were gone, reduced to glowing debris. They used their dying ship as a weapon, Haxun whispered, his mandibles clicking nervously. No civilized species would do such a thing. Across the fleet, similar scenes played out as human vessels transformed themselves into guided missiles. When conventional weapons failed, they reinforced their hulls with layers of salvaged metal plating, ceramic armor, and even chunks of asteroid rock. When Valtharian plasma cannons struck these improvised defenses, the human ships absorbed damage that should have vaporized them instantly, Commander. The panicked voice of Commander Rian crackled over the communications system. They're everywhere. These human ships, they're not fighting like proper military vessels. They're attacking like wild animals. Haksung watched his tactical display as Rian's flagship Void Hunter tried to retreat from a pack of human fighters. The small human craft swarmed around the much larger Valtharian ship, like angry insects, striking at weak points in its armor, and then disappearing before return fire could lock onto them. Rian, maintain formation and use your point defense systems, Haksung ordered. These primitive craft can't possibly. His words were cut off by a terrifying scream from the communication system. On the main screen, he could see Void Hunters, bridge erupting in flames as a human ship, its own hull cracked and burning, rammed directly into the command section. The explosion was tremendous. Void Hunter broke apart like a child's toy, its pieces spinning away into space. But the shockwave from the destruction caught to nearby Valtharian cruisers, damaging their engines and leaving them vulnerable to the next wave of human attacks. Analysis of human tactics now, Haksum barked, his composure finally cracking. How are they doing this? Dalren's claws clicked rapidly across his control interface as he processed the combat data. Sir, they're not following any conventional military doctrine that exists in our databases. These tactics are completely unknown to galactic warfare. Intelligence officers' display showed flight patterns and attack sequences that made no sense according to standard military theory. Human ships would appear from impossible angles, strike hard at specific targets, then vanish back into the asteroid field before Valtharian weapons could track them effectively. They're using guerrilla warfare principles, but adapted for three-dimensional space combat. Dalrin continued, his voice filled with growing dread. They sacrifice individual units to achieve larger strategic objectives. It's like they consider their own lives expendable. On the main viewing screen, a new image appeared. A human female in a military uniform stood in what looked like a damaged command center. Sparks flew from broken equipment behind her, and her face was streaked with blood and soot. But her eyes burned with fierce determination. The name patch on her scorched uniform read Commander Soyoung. I am Commander Soyoung of the Luna Defense Force, she said, speaking directly to the Valtharian fleet. You came here expecting to find a weak, primitive species. You were wrong. Behind her, other human officers worked at damage control stations, their movements quick and efficient despite the chaos around them. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows across their faces, making them look almost demonic. Every war we fought taught us something valuable, Soyoung continued, wiping blood from a cut on her forehead. The ancient Mongols taught us the power of mobility and hit-and-run tactics. The Greeks showed us how small, well-coordinated forces could defeat much larger armies. The display behind her showed historical footage of human military innovations throughout their violent history. Cavalry charges that broke through seemingly impenetrable enemy lines. Naval battles where smaller, faster ships outmaneuvered massive warships. Air combat where cunning pilots defeated superior numbers through skill and determination. The Romans taught us the importance of logistics and engineering, Soyoung went on. Our medieval warriors showed us that sometimes sheer determination matters more than superior equipment. And our world wars taught us the most important lesson of all. The footage shifted to show images from humanity's most devastating conflicts. Massive industrial complexes converted to weapon production. Entire populations mobilized for total war. Cities reduced to rubble, but still defended by their inhabitants. Total war, So-young said, her voice growing cold. The complete commitment of every resource, every citizen, every piece of technology toward the destruction of your enemy. We learn that sometimes survival requires you to become more ruthless than those who threaten you. Haxun felt ice forming in his veins as he began to understand what they were facing. These humans hadn't just been fighting random conflicts throughout their history. Every war, every battle, every tactical innovation had been preparation. For this moment, they've been training for interstellar warfare without even knowing it, he whispered. Dalrin nodded grimly. Every conflict in human history has been a lesson in combat tactics. They've spent thousands of years perfecting the art of warfare against opponents with different strengths, different technologies, different strategies. On screen, Commander So-young smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. And now, you're teaching us how to fight in space. Every ship you destroy shows us the weak points in your armor. Every weapon you fire reveals the limitations of your technology. Every tactical move you make gives us new ideas for defeating you. The human commander gestured toward her damaged bridge. This space station has been hit by your weapons 17 times in the last hour. By all rights, we should be dead. We're still here, still fighting, still learning. Haxung looked around his pristine bridge with its gleaming surfaces and advanced technology. None of his crew had ever served on a ship that had taken significant damage. They fought clean. Civilized wars against opponents who surrendered quickly when faced with superior firepower. These humans were different. They fought like their entire species depended on victory because it did. They had turned their own history of endless conflict into the greatest military education any species had ever received. Sir Vendal's voice was barely above a whisper. I'm reading massive energy signatures from the human homeworld. They're powering up weapons we didn't know they had. On the tactical display, Earth itself was beginning to glow with the energy of hidden defensive systems. Orbital platforms emerged from camouflaged positions. Lunar installations revealed themselves as weapon batteries. Even asteroids in the belt were moving, positioned by hidden human engines. Commander So-young's final words chilled Haxung to his core. Welcome to Earth, Eltharian Empire. Class is now in session. They're sacrificing their own ships. Vendel gasped. What kind of species does that? On screen, Captain Nomu's expression remained calm. The kind that has been preparing for this moment since we first looked up at the stars and wondered what else might be out there. The battle had been raging for what felt like an eternity. Haxung's pristine uniform was now soaked with sweat. As he frantically moved between control stations on his bridge, the Star Dominion shuddered under another impact, emergency lights casting an eerie red glow across the command center. Damage report, he shouted over the blaring alarms. Breach on Deck 7, sir, came the panicked reply. We've lost 2 weapon batteries, and our port shield generator is failing. 18 hours ago, Haxun had commanded the most powerful invasion fleet in Veltharian history. Now he watched in horror as his tactical display showed empty spaces, where proud warships once stood. The humans had turned what should have been a simple conquest into a nightmare of guerrilla warfare in space. Sir, Crimson Blade is reporting engine failure, Vendel called out, his voice cracking with exhaustion. They're drifting helplessly toward a group of human fighters. On the main screen, they watched as the crippled Veltharian destroyer tried desperately to fire its remaining weapons at the approaching human vessels. But these weren't the crude converted cargo ships from the first wave. These were sleek, purpose-built fighters that moved through space like deadly sharks. The human pilots showed no mercy. They swarmed around Crimson Blade, their weapons precisely, targeting the ship's weak points. Within minutes, the destroyer's reactor went critical, creating a brief new star in the darkness of space. 63 ships, Vendel whispered, staring at his console. We've lost 63 vessels in less than a day. This is impossible. Dalrin looked up from his intelligence station, his face pale with shock. Commander, you need to see this. The humans have turned their moon into a weapon. The main display shifted to show Earth's natural satellite, but something was terribly wrong. Massive structures had emerged from hidden underground facilities, transforming the lunar surface into a gigantic railgun platform. They're using electromagnetic seed accelerators, Dalren explained, his voice filled with awe and terror. They're launching chunks of lunar rock at near-light speed directly at our fleet. As if to demonstrate his point, a boulder the size of a small building came screaming through space at impossible velocity. It struck a Valtharian cruiser dead center, punching through its shields and armor like they were made of paper. The ship simply ceased to exist, vaporized by the kinetic impact. "How is this possible?" Haxun demanded. "Our intelligence reports said they had no advanced weapons." "They don't have advanced weapons, sir," Dalren replied grimly. "They have something much more dangerous, advanced thinking. They've weaponized physics itself, where lunar projectiles streaked through the battle zone, each one perfectly aimed at Valtharian vessels. The humans had calculated the orbital mechanics with terrifying precision, turning simple rocks into planet-killing weapons. "Commander," communications officer's voice was filled with panic. "We're receiving a transmission from Earth's surface. It's a surrender demand. A surrender demand," Exum roared. "They're demanding that we surrender?" The main screen flickered to show a young human male in a crisp military uniform. Despite the chaos of battle around him, he appeared completely calm and professional. The name tag on his chest read Colonel Deho, Valtharian Fleet. Deho said in perfect standard Galactic, "I am Colonel Deho of the Earth Space Defense Force. Your invasion has failed. Your fleet is being systematically destroyed by forces you clearly do not understand." Behind the human officer, massive displays showed the tactical situation from Earth's perspective. Haxun was horrified to see how completely the humans had outmaneuvered his forces. Every Valtharian ship was tracked, every movement predicted, every weakness exploited. "You have two options," Deho continued with the same calm professionalism one might use to discuss the weather. "Option 1, surrender immediately and be treated according to the galactic laws of war. Your crews will be interned but unharmed, and you will be repatriated at the end of hostilities." The human colonel paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. "Option 2, continue this engagement and face complete annihilation. We have prepared contingencies that will result in the total destruction of your remaining forces. You have 30 minutes to decide." Haxong's mandibles clicked furiously. How dare they? We still outnumber them 100 to 1. But even as he spoke those words, another section of his fleet vanished from the tactical display. Human ships had emerged from the asteroid belt's far side, striking at his rear formations with devastating precision. Sir Vendel whispered, "We don't outnumber them anymore. Our effective combat strength is down to less than 60% intelligence." Officer Dalren pulled up horrifying statistics. "Commander, in conventional fleet combat, we should have won this battle in 2 hours. Instead, the humans have been systematically destroying us using tactics that don't exist in any military database." On screen, Colonel Deho gestured to a display showing human military academies. Every child on Earth studies military history from age 5. Every human adult has served in our planetary defense forces. We have been preparing for this battle for generations. Haxong watched in growing despair as more human tactics unfolded. They used disabled satellites as improvised bombs. They turned space debris into weapons. They even used their own atmosphere as a defensive tool, hiding ships in the planets. Magnetic field. They're not just fighting us, he realized aloud. They're teaching us why we can never win. Suddenly, his communications officer looked up with wide, terrified eyes. "Sir, we're receiving direct communications from 12 of our own ships. Their commanders they're offering to surrender to the humans." Haxun spun around. "That's impossible. Valtharian commanders never surrender. Captain Mortek, of the Steel Fang, is saying the humans have offered him and his crew safe passage home if they stand down immediately," the officer reported. He's accepting their terms." On the tactical display, Haxung watched as 12 Valtharian vessels powered down their weapons and began broadcasting surrender codes. Within minutes, human escort ships appeared to guide them away from the battle zone. "They're defecting," Vendel breathed. "Our own commanders are defecting. To the enemy." Colonel Deho's voice came through the speakers once more. Commander Haksung of the Star Dominion, you now have 27 minutes to make your decision. I should mention that we've been monitoring your fleet communications. Several of your officers have expressed concerns about the ... wisdom of continuing this engagement. The human officer's words struck Haksung like a physical blow. His own crew was losing faith in his leadership, in the superiority of Veltharian military might. Sir Dalren said quietly, "We've never faced anything like this. These humans fight like they've been planning for this exact scenario their entire lives." Through the viewing windows, Haksung could see the beautiful blue world of Earth, still, spinning peacefully despite the massive battle raging in its vicinity. Somehow, that sight filled him with more dread than any weapon could have. The humans weren't just defending their world. They were teaching the galaxy a lesson about the true meaning of warfare. The bridge of the Star Dominion had become a graveyard of broken dreams and shattered pride. Haksung stood motionless before the main tactical display, his 4 arms hanging limply at his sides as he stared at the devastating truth before him. Of the 300 mighty warships that had entered this solar system with such confidence, barely 90 remained operational. The silence on the bridge was deafening. No one dared speak as they watched the final human assault unfold on their screens. Small groups of human fighters were systematically hunting down the scattered remnants of the Veltharian fleet. Their tactics now refined to terrifying precision after 18 hours of continuous combat. Sir Vendel whispered, his voice barely audible, "The Thunder's wrath has just surrendered. That makes 27 ships that have defected to the humans." Haksung closed his eyes, feeling the weight of complete military failure crushing down on him. In 47 previous conquests, he had never lost more than 3 ships. Now, in a single day, these primitive humans had destroyed the most powerful invasion force in Veltharian history. The communication system crackled to life. The main screen filled with an image that would be burned into Haksung's memory forever. Captain Nomu appeared once again, but this time he was not alone. The human command center behind him was filled with dozens of officers, both male and female, their uniforms bearing names like Colonel Kyungmin, Admiral Hyojin, General Sangwoo, and Commander Ji-Wan. These human leaders looked exhausted. Their faces were streaked with sweat and grime, their uniforms torn and scorched from the long battle. But their eyes blazed with the fierce satisfaction of warriors who had achieved the impossible. "Commander Haksung," Captain Namwu said, his voice carrying a mixture of respect and pity, "I want to thank you for this valuable lesson in galactic warfare. Your technology is indeed impressive, far superior to anything we could build." Behind the human captain, his officers nodded in agreement. General Sangwoo stepped forward, his weathered face serious. "Your plasma weapons, your energy shields, your faster-than-light drives, all of these represent centuries of advanced development that we can barely understand." "But," Admiral Hyojin added, her voice cutting through the bridge's silence like a blade, "you've forgotten something crucial about warfare, something that no amount of technology can replace." Captain Nomu nodded to his fellow commanders before continuing. "You conquer worlds to expand your empire, to add new territories to your collection. For you, warfare is a business transaction, a way to acquire resources and demonstrate power." The human captain's expression grew serious, almost sad. "We fight wars to survive. Every conflict in our history has been about existence itself. When a human goes into battle, they're not fighting for territory or resources. They're fighting for their children, their families, their entire species." Colonel Kungman pointed to a display showing human casualty reports. "In this single engagement, we've lost over 12,000 brave men and women. Pilots who flew their damaged fighters into your ships. Engineers who stayed at their posts even as their stations exploded around them. Soldiers who chose death over surrender. The difference," Nomu concluded, "is that you can afford to lose. If this invasion had failed, your empire would simply try again in a few years with a different fleet. But we can't afford to lose even once. Defeat means extinction." Haksung felt something breaking inside his chest, not just his pride, but his entire understanding of warfare and military superiority. These humans had just taught him that raw determination could overcome any technological advantage. With trembling hands, he activated his personal communication system and began composing. What would be the most difficult message of his military career? The holographic display showed the official seal of the Veltharian High Command as he began to dictate. To the Imperial Council and High Command of the Veltharian Empire, he began, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. I, Commander Haksung, veteran of 47 successful planetary conquests, hereby tender my immediate resignation from the Veltharian Navy. His bridge crew turned to stare at him in shock. In the entire history of their military, no commander had ever resigned during active combat. The species known as humans are not the primitive, divided race described in our intelligence reports. He continued. They are apex predators who have spent their entire evolutionary history perfecting the art of warfare. Their endless conflicts were not signs of weakness. They were training exercises for this exact scenario. Haksung paused, looking around at his defeated crew. Any future attempt to conquer Earth will result in catastrophic losses that could cripple our empire. I strongly recommend immediate diplomatic contact and the establishment of peaceful relations. He sealed the message with his personal command codes and transmitted it across the galaxy to Veltharian High Command. The bridge remained silent as his crew processed what they had just witnessed, but instead of ordering a retreat to Veltharian space, Haksung made a decision that stunned everyone, including himself. He walked to the navigation station and began plotting a course toward the blue planet below. Double quotes, sir, what are you doing? Asked, his voice filled with confusion and fear. Haksung looked at his young tactical officer with something approaching paternal affection. I'm making the smartest military decision of my career, he replied. If humans fight this fiercely against their enemies, imagine how they treat their allies. He activated the ship's communication system, broadcasting on all human frequencies. This is former Commander Haksung of the Veltharian Empire. I am requesting political asylum on Earth and offering complete intelligence on Veltharian military capabilities, fleet movements, and strategic plans. Within minutes, Captain Namwu's face appeared on screen, but now he was smiling, a genuine expression of respect and welcome. Former Commander Haksung, Namwu said, This is Captain Namwu of the Earth Defense Coalition. Your request for asylum has been approved by our highest authorities. Please follow the navigation beacon we're transmitting and prepare for escort to Luna Station. As the Star Dominion began its approach to Earth, Haksung felt a strange sense of relief washing over him. He had spent his entire career conquering primitive worlds and crushing weaker species. Now, for the first time, he was about to meet his equals. Sir, Dalrin asked quietly, what will happen to us now? Haksung looked out at the beautiful blue world growing larger in their viewscreen. Cities twinkled like stars on the night side of the planet, while storms swirled majestically across the day side. It was the most beautiful world he had ever seen. Now, he said with certainty, we learn what it means to be on the same side as the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Captain Namwu's voice crackled over the communication system one final time. Welcome to Earth. Former Commander Haksung. We have much to discuss. As human escort ships surrounded the Star Dominion, guiding it safely toward Earth's moon, Haksung realized that this wasn't an ending at all. It was the beginning of something far more significant than any conquest he had ever achieved. For the first time in his military career, he was about to become an ally instead of an invader. Asterisk the END asterisk.